it wasn't happening from here. So
Okay.
get it going.
Cool. All right. We should be live now or in the next few seconds, depending on what Facebook does over here. I think we're good now. Cool. All right. So I'd love to hear if anyone has any wins. I shared one yesterday. That was a good win for us in the agency side of things. So we had a client that was at $1,500 a month when we brought him on. I shared this in the group, but just go over it quickly. So he's actually in like the remodeling and deck building niche. And I've never really had a client in that niche, but we started him off with at the time, which was our company minimum of 1,500. And now it's been 12 months. So we built multiple sites. We built one in the remodeling space, and then we built another one in deck building. And it looked like he got over 100 leads last month between those two. So those leads range, if you look at the home advisor pricing, like I showed on the previous week, those leads range from like between $60 and $100. So I actually think we're still kind of like underselling it a bit, but we took them from 1,500 to 4,500. It's a tough thing to do when you're like, hey, client, pay 3 times what you're paying now. Starting immediately, right? It's not really how the conversation is generally going to go. So, you got to preserve the relationship when you have this conversation. That's important, right? So you want to stair step it. And that's what we did. We said, hey, well, like I initially said, what if we spread it out over 2 months? And he said, the value is 100% here. It's just hard for me to make that kind of jump that quickly. So I said, well, let's spread it out over 4 months. And then we could reevaluate if necessary. And he was good. And he was left feeling as if like his voice was heard. He was that we were understanding, that we were kind of accommodating him. But he also was like aware that, hey, like 100 leads a month in this industry it's worth way more than $1,500. So I've got a little whiteboard over here, and I just kind of look through lead generated regularly to find my list of leads, and we look at what people are paying, and we're kind of cross-referencing those to see who is it's time to adjust for, because it's not like the client's ever going to come to you and say, yo, you guys are doing awesome. How can I pay more money? That's just like, at least that's never happened to me. I don't know.
I actually had that happen this week.
You did?
Yeah. It was the weirdest thing. Somebody actually, he emailed, he goes, you know what? We're only paying you 8% for revenue. We should pay you more. We're going to start paying you 10. We want to start this month.
Wow. That's amazing. You must be doing a phenomenal job for these people, and they must really.
And he said, do you do it in other parts of the country? I'm going to give you all my buddies from other parts of the country. So it was like a double win.
Yeah. Shannon, that is a big part of how we grew so quickly, is we got into a national manufacturer within a niche, and they gave us their best people from around the country. Right. Yeah. So I would absolutely pursue that. And we talked about this on the last few calls about when it's time to actually niche down. And my advice is don't niche down until you kind of have a client in the niche, the niche a little bit before you kind of go all in on it, because you're going to learn things, and some of the things you learn you may not like, and you don't want to be committed to that with 40 sites or something before you realize it. So for those of you that are kind of in that phase where I would say like maybe get 2 or 3 sites in each of these niches, and then kind of let the niche pick you to some extent, where it's like, which one am I really enjoying? Which one do I like these clients? Because you'll notice, like, we're always taught it's bad to stereotype people, right? But stereotypes also exist for a reason. And some of them are going to, like, certain people are going to be more common in certain niches, right? Like, you would imagine that the person who runs a tow truck company, if you picture what that person looks like, now picture the person who like sews for a living or bakes cakes, right? They're like, our visions of this is probably different, like those 2 different visions, and those exist. They're more common. Obviously there's phenomenal people and there's bad people in every niche, right? But there's certain things that you're going to learn along the way, and you don't want to be locked into it because you've invested so much time and money until you really understand all the dynamics of it. And it's not just something about the people at the niche, it's also the niche itself, right? So But once it sounds like, Shannon, you know the niche now. So like maybe it makes sense after you've kind of played in it. You know, you maybe can make that decision to start to go in after it, especially if you have a hot source of these people. That's one thing that really works for Jeff and I is we're constantly getting hot leads in the same niche that we know very well, right? So I know that when I was at the JK event in 2017 and I looked around at the people that were successful, that one of the things they had in common is a lot of them had niched down, right? So I think some people did it wrong, and I think that's the mistake they made. So I would just start slowly, and you know, I think it can work really well. But when you try bouncing between all these different niches, it's a lot harder. Like, well, let me say it this way: when you niche down, there's a lot of benefits to it, right? Like for the niche that we're in mostly, it's a tight knit community, so a lot of people know each other. Like sometimes we got a referral for Missoula, Montana, and the lady did like 4 months of research, and our name got recommended like 4 or 5 times to her. So she had so when she got to us, what do we have to say to not close that deal? Where it's like, these are the best people in this industry for this. Like she hears that from 5 independent people before she even talks to us. It's pretty easy to close that person. We know exactly how to build the sites. We know the value of the leads. We know what pages. We know some of the backlink sources. Our content writers know the content. We can even send links from our own sites to other sites, and it's in that niche, right? So just a lot of benefits to niching down. So something I definitely recommend. Okay, cool. So that was a nice win for us. So like I said, we spread it out for, so right now they're at 1,500, May 1st, they're gonna be at 2,250, then 3,000 a month on June 1st, then 3,750, and then finally 4,500 on August 1st. So another thing that I really like to do, and I think some of you guys do this already, is we try to align all of our payments so they come out on the 1st of the month. I think that just simplifies everything. When you're going through and you're trying to see if somebody didn't pay you and you only have to do it on one day, and you get this kind of like big chunk of money that you're like, okay, here's my expenses. Here's what I can budget. I've got everything in my account, because you start budgeting on things money that hasn't collected. And then those people, whatever, they flake or who knows what happens, right? And then you look at it differently. So I think it's just a lot easier to manage when it all comes in. For some of you, maybe you want to do it like have everyone come in on the 1st and the 15th. So simply what you do is just prorate, right? Like, so if they come in on the 10th and it's $1,500 a month, then you just charge $1,000 because there's 2/3 of the month left, right? For 2/3 of the payment. So that's something that I think has simplified it within our agency quite a bit, is having most of this stuff come out on the 1st. We still have a few people that are over there. Obviously, you know, you may not want to do that the first month. For some people, if you got that kind of like weird feeling, like, I don't know, like we've sent this person all this stuff and it's so hard to get in touch with this person, I don't want to like have to track them down again to collect another payment. So, but I think as it goes forward, it's easier to just have it all come out on the 1st. If you guys aren't using ACH and your agencies are growing, I think that's something that you should definitely consider. Not everyone's going to be up for it. People like their credit card points, but ACH a lot of times is free. If you go through Stripe, you can run ACH through Stripe. It will be $5 for the transaction. So as we move our clients up, those numbers can get bigger, right? So on $1,500, it's like $54 a month, right? And if you got, 20 clients, that's over $1,000 that you're going to be spending in credit card fees versus $100 if you were to run them all through ACH. So just something I think that you guys should think about. So one of the things,
let's say I want this.
How do you set that up, Patrick? I mean, where is it in Stripe?
And I'm going to go back.
1 second. There's somebody that I'm going to mute.
Storytelling one.
Cameron.
Got him. Okay. Okay. So Dave, you're saying where do you set that up inside Stripe? Yeah, so in the area where it says like specify the default card, there's like a bank account option. So you set it there, and then what happens is it will be like 2 or 3 days. They'll send a like a micro deposit, so you'll have to get that information. I think there's another way to do it called Plaid. I haven't used it that way where you can do it instantly, but I haven't set that up. we are working towards a Stripe integration within our system so that you can manage a lot of the stuff in there, because what I really want is I want lead cost averaging for everyone. So I think I've talked about this to maybe on this call. I know I've mentioned it to other people, so it gets cloudy in my mind whether it was on this call or just to some random person. But what we're looking to do is you can specify your niche, and then if you're handling your payments through our system, then we can determine like the average cost per that niche. And if you decide that you want to share this data with the system, it doesn't mean you're going to be sharing it with other users where they're going to like see your information. But if you decide to share that information with the system, we'll give you that option of whether you want to make it public or keep it private. If you decide to make it public, you'll get the advantage of seeing and getting alerts when your lead average is deviated too far from, whether it's too high or too low. It could be a problem on both ends. Sounds good if it's too high and your client's cool with it, but probably I would say the longevity of a client when you're charging them too much is going to be a lot shorter, and that relationship, they're probably going to be looking over your shoulder all the time. So what I'd like to do is have it sit an alert where it's like, okay, this payment was processed through there. Like for those of you guys that use Stripe, myself included, there's a lot of things that are missing that I would love. Like, okay, this payment was declined, then I want to get an alert. Like, so what if we got a text message when this payment's declined, rather than having to like go through and like check it and be like, okay, because I've actually had it where I didn't realize it for a few weeks. And then I'm look back and I'm like, let me just go back here and make sure, oh, this person didn't pay. And now I'm like, your card didn't go through, and then, you know, they'll pay, but like to be able to get that in real time and this type of stuff. But having it say like, hey, you're in the plumbing niche, the average lead cost is $75 based on the amount of leads. You had more leads this month or something. Your lead cost is now $50. So it can alert us to try to reach back out to the client and make us like more efficient with the leads that we're providing from a like more profitable, you know. Does anyone have any questions on that? I've got a few things.
I got a couple of questions.
Sure.
So going back to the original win that you were talking about.
Yeah.
You were uncommon. You're clearly uncomfortable making that call, right? So, and that's okay. I mean, I know stuff is necessary, but on the other hand, is there anything in hindsight that you would have done differently to set that up, to set the client's expectations up earlier on, that would have made that a simpler process for you? I'm not trying to second guess you.
Yeah, you know, I've had that call a lot of times. So I was uncomfortable because I know it's a conversation they don't want to have, and I'm a very empathetic person.
Yeah,
I wasn't uncomfortable from like I don't know. I feel pretty comfortable communicating. So I set the expectations from the beginning that as this grows, the price adjusts. So it wasn't going to be a shock to him in that regard. It's just when I've had this conversation in the past, and I can hear like it's just, there's a lot of times I'll talk to the client and they'll be like, man, you guys are killing it. Everything is awesome. We love it. Like, we're so happy. And then this conversation, the tone is just very different.
Yeah.
Where it's like, yeah, I get it. It makes sense. You guys are doing really well. So like, it's just not a conversation I really enjoy. I enjoy after it's over, and I'm like, okay, now we've like tripled it. But
what was your pricing methodology for this guy?
well, we have a minimum that like, that's how it starts out with, is I'm just like, and I think I've shared this before, but I've learned a lot over the last year and a half. How we did it in the beginning was I would set a minimum, and we just kept on moving our minimum up, right? Because it's
as a company, not for a client.
I'm sorry.
You moved you were continuing to move
like
your
the company
minimum up
minimum,
as a company.
minimum. Like, you're going to find that your clients are going to be around, they're going to start off at your company minimum.
Right.
And I don't feel like our close rate has gone down, and Jeff and I have actually changed that. So now we're looking at, you know, we're restructuring things, but if I had to do it again, my company minimum would probably be at least $3,000 a month now. But it just so happened that everyone agreed to our company minimum, where I'm like, well, this is, you know, when you get someone in the situation, if you can prove your value enough, then like the minimum doesn't matter so much, because it's just like, hey, I understand I'm going to spend this, but they like truly believe in you that you're going to give them more than that back, then that first number doesn't matter so much, right? It's just a lot of us, we struggle with that first part of the equation. It's like, how do we get them to believe that? Part of it is you have to have some experience. You got to be able to speak with confidence. We can show results. We get referrals. Like all these things start stacking up, and there's zero smell of desperation when I have the conversation, like, or when Jeff has the conversation. It's like, this is our minimum. This is what we do. We're going to, like, if you want us, we'll absolutely come in here and obliterate the competition. And the minimum is going to go up over time. And if that doesn't seem like it's your style, then that's totally cool. I know there's a lot of other companies out there that can offer services, but we're designed to work with companies that want to take over the entire city and just like grow a multi-million-dollar company. That's who we are. And you know, I'll say it to them like that, and I think everything is consistent through and through for them. Especially now, like it's great to get to the spot, and this may be where Shannon will go as she gets like referrals. If she's got like a whole referral pipeline, like all your friends are telling you the same thing about, you know, Harry, you got to meet Jeff. He's like the best guy. If everyone tells you that, and then like you go in, meeting Jeff to you is not like walking in to meet a stranger, right? It's like you already think good things about him. So that's kind of like, so.
And they're not all winners either. You know, some of those guys, they don't have the capacity to grow. I was on a call with somebody a few days ago, and roofing niche, and they just been in the business 30 years. And I try to find these guys who have been in the business for a long time because they know their stuff. And I try to sell them on the opportunity to be sort of like the kingpin, as I call them, and just go out and sort of farm it out to their crews and really be a real business owner. But this guy's been in business for 30 years. He hasn't even broken that level where he's got, you know, more than one crew running around. He's just, he's running around, his head cut off, right? So he doesn't have the capacity to do it. He doesn't see the vision. And it's like, okay, well, the next step is, do you have anybody you recommend? Because you're not my guy, you know? So
was the 1,500 deal, was that a flat rate for the month?
Yeah, I don't like to do, like, flat rate is the way that I go. There's times when we start where we go with like paper lead. Personally, I avoid percentage deals. My business, the way I've structured this is to scale, right? So I'm thinking about that all the time, is like, if I have to do paper lead, like we have about 10,000 leads coming a month in our agency. So if I'm trying to do paper lead, like, what does that look like for us to go back through?
I already know. Right. It's horrible.
Or the percentage deal too. Like,
right.
So
anything you have to calculate at the end of the month is a pain in the ass.
So here's kind of how I do it. Well, like, how do I determine if we're on a flat fee? I'll go and I'll find out what the lead cost is. And I like to use Home Advisor as a baseline. And honestly, our leads are so much better than Home Advisors. Like for like 3 reasons, right? But you know, the person is coming through a Google search, so their buyer intent is so much higher, right? It's not a shared lead, right? And the leads are coming directly to them in real time, right? So there's 3 reasons make our leads a lot better, but I'll use it as a baseline. These people are used to paying for Home Advisor's nonsense, so then I can calculate, okay, like if I sent, like with this guy, the lead value is between $60 and $100. We sent him 100 leads. So that should be like, whatever, $7,500, I guess, would be the average. We took it, I told him, like, this could easily sell for $6,500. I don't want to like spike this on you or drop a bomb on you. I want you to have a great deal. So we put it at 4,500. And I mean, I'm okay with that. The sites weren't that tough to build. Yeah, maybe I could redline them and get them at a bigger number.
Right. But
it becomes mailbox money when you don't redline them, which is like, these people aren't on the threshold of like where this is profitable or not profitable. They're in like the referral zone too. Like he's now, if you give them like a really good deal, like they want to refer people, right? If you're like,
want to make you happy.
Yeah. And you know, one of the lines in the language that I use when I'm talking to my clients a lot is, look, I know right now you probably view us as like a marketing lead generation company, but we've grown a big business, and I view this as more of a partnership where I'm like, how can I help you? Like, what can I do? So if you got like technology problems, whatever it is, like just let us know. Like, you know, we've grown a big business, we've scaled, right? I've got 32 people that work for me, and that didn't happen overnight. That happened because we had systems in place, and we set things up. And like, I went to business school. And then after that, I've studied books. I've been to seminars. Like, so all this knowledge, the knowledge that I share with you guys is some of the knowledge that I like to share with my clients too. Is like, how can we be of service to these clients? And if you do that and you're not redlining them, I find that, and you deliver, you just like really crush it for them, referrals really just start to come in, right? So there's no magic formula. It's part of it is just like, be a good person to these people. And like, you know, if someone goes, just like you, if someone goes out of their way to help you in a situation, then you're more likely to recommend. If someone does like a phenomenal job, if you like take your car in to get fixed and you get it back and they washed it, like, and then someone's like, hey, do you know anyone that could fix my car? And you're like, oh, this guy over here, man, this is where you like, so that's the situation we try to put these people in. Like, we had a couple, one of our clients had, who was that? Dave, was that his dad or somebody? Like,
that's Jason.
Yeah, so someone passed away and we sent them flowers, you know.
Oh, yeah, right. Dave. No, that was Bruce. Dave had a friend pass away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Both of those
Done that,
same instance. Yeah.
We've done that a few times, you know. It's like I think a lot of people try to treat their clients like their clients, and you know, you definitely want to keep that like buffer, but at the same time, like we're all humans trying to like do our best in this world, and if you kind of treat them like other humans, and like there's something you can do to help them out.
Sharing. If you're reaching out to them for whatever reason and they're in a bad spot, like this guy Bruce in particular, you know, he and his girlfriend went through a really tough time when her father passed, and so he's letting me know, like, so when you get on a call with a client and they're venting about their personal problems and you know you have a tight relationship, like he's inviting us to go, you know, ride the Polaris and four-wheeling and stuff like that. So he's a cool guy, so I let him vent and I go through it, and then I send him some flowers, and it just, you know, kind of closes the loop. So it's really good stuff to be able to do that. Hey, Patrick, I have a question for you, just, you know, so you guys know that I don't manage all of the clients in Patric's agency. I only manage the ones that I manage. I know how I keep up and kind of see the comparison between the leads from the last month to the next month. How do you do it with so many more sites that you're managing, Patric, as far as seeing an opportunity like this to level up somebody's monthly? How do you keep track of all that? I think it might be helpful for people.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in a perfect world, I probably talk to these clients more than I do. I've barely spoken to this guy since he came on. I've just like touched in. This is the guy, I think I shared this a year ago, maybe in the JK group. I closed this guy through Facebook Messenger without even having a phone call. He came through as a referral. So we didn't actually have our first phone call until a few months in. And I didn't do a great job of keeping up with how he was doing, but I saw the leads, and, you know, we have someone who answers or like kind of like audits the calls and stuff like this. So, you know, just paying attention inside the lead generated dashboard to the leads that were coming through, and then looking like, I know exactly how much every client we have pays us. So I can look at the leads and I'm like, that seems like a lot of leads for what you're paying, right? You know, if you do like, here's another thing. The busier you make these people, a lot of times the less you'll hear from them. Like they're not gonna like be, if they're sitting on their hands all day and they're paying you, they're going to reach out to you. But if they're like busy with work nonstop, then like it just becomes odd. I've got clients we haven't talked to in a few years that every month their credit card gets billed. I see the leads. I see that like they're being handled, like the calls are being answered. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I spend a little bit more time on it. You know, Patric's running an agency and the software platform and whatnot. So, you know, I'm doing sales, so I have more time to kind of dig in, see where they're at. You know, I try to touch base with my clients at least once a week. It doesn't always happen, but if they need something little or there's something we could tweak and, you know, improve the process or the results, then I'm always trying to do stuff like that. And so when you get that as many clients this agency has, it can be really, really cumbersome to be able to manage clients that way. And that's a scaling issue, right? Because you have the ability to, instead of go get more clients, like triple what a client you already have. But if you don't know you have the capability to do that, then, you do the other thing and go get a new client, start all over.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've already built a strong relationship of trust with these people. I think it's important, we have, I don't know how many clients we have, to be honest. I think somewhere between like 50 and 70. We've like fluctuated. And, keeping your eye on those leads that are coming in. So if you guys aren't taking advantage of the qualified call filters, are something that's maybe we don't talk a lot about, but it in our agency, it certainly makes things a lot more valuable. And I'm going to go over what that is exactly so we can see it. I'll pull it up.
And just real quickly, like when I reach out to these people, like I kind of tune into what's going on. Like if I have a client who's about to have a baby, I'm trying to plant the seeds of expansion. Like when are you going to be ready to expand? Like there's going to be a time when you're going to want to go into the next market or go and add another niche or whatever. But I know if this client's got a baby coming in the next couple months, like this is not a good time to start trying to amp up the fees or expand or anything like that. So I try to tune in as much as possible so that we hit them at the right time with that expansion or additional fee, so it makes sense.
Yeah, so, I think it's really important for you to know the vision of your clients too. That's one of the things that I like to get down to right away. Is like, how do they foresee this? And this isn't necessarily like I know that sales, they talk about this, like understanding the vision, because then you can sell them. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is like understand their vision, and then how can you help them get to that spot? Not just like sell them on getting to that spot. Like what actions can you take to get to that spot? So that when you come at it from that angle, and you're not sitting there as a salesperson trying to sell them on this, and you're like, what do you want to do? And the common answer might be like, I'd love to have like 3 or 4 crews. And why that number? Because then we would have this many jobs. So once you have like 3 or 4 crews, what is that going to mean? And eventually, a lot of times where you're going to get with this line of questioning is that they would like to have other people running the show for them so that they can like go on vacation and like have enough money coming in to be able to pay someone who's good at what they do, that they can trust and count on, right? So their vision is really to build to scale and like pull themselves out of the business to some extent. Like if these contractors, they probably, like a lot of them, they're going to want to move from doing the work to doing the estimates. Because a lot of these guys are like doing this like laborious work, right? And then when they can move in and they can have crews at different houses or different jobs doing different things, and they just like check in on the crews and they go and do the sales and the estimates. And then eventually they get to a spot where they can have an estimator who's doing the estimates, right? And like, I'll tell them as a part of the sales, I'll tell them the stories of the clients that we help get there. Like we have a guy in Boise and he spends a lot of his time in Mexico on vacation. And he's got multiple crews, multiple estimators, and that's where they want to go. And we were part of how, like, he told us his vision. And I remembered that vision from the beginning. I like made that a part of my story. And, one of the ways that we were able to scale is that we had managers within our agency, and the managers get assigned a set of clients. And I'll tell the manager, like, hey, this is the guy from Boise. He's got 2 kids. He's married. He's been in business for like 12 years. He wants to be able to like go on these like vacations. Like maybe it was this guy. He wants to be able to go to Mexico and hang out while work is still being done here. So this is our goal. This is what we need to do. This is what we're working towards, right? So that is not just something that brushes off my shoulder when I hear it. And I think that kind of embodiment of their goal becoming a part of our goal and taking that as a part of the partnership has made us better at what we do. And it's made the clients feel like they're in this, because I'll remember it when we a year later, like, hey, this is what you said that you wanted to do. Where are we towards working towards that? And they'll be shocked but if you're not just like, if it means something to you, then it's easy to remember, right? So what's up, Dave?
So with that in mind, I mean, you're telling somebody you work with all of this great information, are you also tracking this in a CRM, or is this all in your head? Is this on a spreadsheet? I mean, how
I
are
just
you?
remember it. It's in my head. Like
So-
if you're someone who can't remember it, then I would certainly write it down. But you know, I remember, I'm a people person. You know, I remember talking to you in Vegas outside the bathroom, right? Just for like 15 minutes, right? I remember that. Like I like these events, they affect me. And so, but if you find that you can't remember it, then I would absolutely write it down. And I would
I take notes.
Well, I mean, sometimes it's really tough to keep track of 200 or 300 different people that you're working with, and then to have to transfer that over to somebody else that you're working with. I wondered what it was that you were doing to keep track of all that and transfer it.
Right. I mean, we're definitely not working with 200 or 300 people. We've got like somewhere between 50 and 70 clients. And, you know, I like at that volume, I guess I haven't had an issue remembering like the key things that are important to these people. And that's might just be an idiosyncrasy for me. Right.
Yeah, I track every call.
Have that issue.
Every time I call, or every time I communicate with a client, I track the high points of the conversation so that I have it to reference, because I'm more of a big picture guy. I don't get into the details as much as Patric. Right. So, you know, I'm just kind of flying, keep going. Yeah, and I have to, you know, clog up my brain with a lot of it.
And just like I'm sure everybody else here does, I mean, clients, customers, however you want to term it, at some point they become family. So you get some of those intimate details, and it's...
Yeah, like I'm saying, I mean, sometimes they call, they just want to vent about their day or whatever, and it's like, that's what I got to do.
But then, you know, moments later, she's calling back and like,
Who is that? We're getting some feedback here.
So, yeah, I didn't know if you had a magic bullet for that, Patric, or even you, Jeff. So
I would do it how Jeff says it. If you're asking a question, then I think that you probably need a system. And I think Jeff does a phenomenal job. One of the things that we're doing is we're going to be within our system, we're going to start introducing a lot of custom fields for the clients. So right now we have this like limited thing, but we're going to be having notes, and you can add whatever fields you want, similar to how you can kind of build a website form. Nice. Where you can put in all these fields. We're going to be doing the same thing with that for clients, for companies, for GMBs, and then making all that stuff searchable and sortable so that you can kind of like have it in there. It'll be tied into the pipeline system that we're going to be releasing soon. I was going to bring something up on lead generated, and now I can't remember what it was. Does anyone?
It was the lead filtering, the lead managing.
Oh, the qualified call filters.
Qualified call.
Yeah. So let me just share this real quick. This can help you guys out. If you guys aren't taking advantage of this, I think it's something that you should probably check out. So if you go in to a company, we'll just go with this company here. And then you go to the edit company area. There is, you guys probably noticed that we redid these screens to kind of set things up for expansion. But if you go to the phone part of it, there's this qualified call filters. Okay, so what this means is as calls come in, what is going to be added as a lead, right? So naturally, when things come in, they're kind of held in this quarantined area here where the all calls. I don't have any dummy calls in this account right now, but so they will be held here and they won't be added as leads, which is good because it helps preserve our lead count, but it's bad because obviously a lot of the calls are going to be real leads and we're not counting any of them when it's that way. So if you were to come in here and turn this on like this, then every call that comes in is going to be added as a lead because there's no qualifiers for it. But what you can do is you can say, hey, I want to only count it if it's a first time caller. So I'll tell you what we do in our agency is I set this to 90 seconds and I'll leave it like this. So that means if a call comes in and it lasts 90 seconds, then it's automatically added as a lead. So then when I'm going back to count my leads and find out what is a real lead and where I am with our clients, now I've got a pretty good estimate of like how many actual leads we sent. So we know the form submissions are going to be like, we know whether those are real or not for the most part by looking at them. The spam filters should be crushing those. And you know, if you guys are getting a lot of spam, then like let me know because I know there's a couple users that I need to circle back to that the spam filters aren't working for them as they're working for us. But for us, we've got it set up and we get almost no form submission spam, right? So we have like only our real forms, and then we've got calls that are 90 seconds or longer. So I can quickly go through and be like, okay, this person's had 75 leads. And then I can go use that home advisor sheet to look at it and say, okay, they're charging this. My leads are better. I should probably be at least somewhere near this times however many leads. And that's where we'll set our flat fee, right? And I won't, like I said, I won't redline them right towards it. So one of the other things that I wanted to talk about is how we've changed over time with our billing and what I've learned, right? So when I first started doing this, I would try to get the money from people as soon as possible and then get them on a monthly fee. And so that was like version 1. So what would happen is a lot of times around the 3-month period, I would lose the client because we weren't able to get them leads fast enough. Like, I think it's great for us to just use this like 3-month as this like rule of thumb, but that's not been my experience. I think usually it takes longer before we're really like, before the leads are really coming in. Especially if you like, for us, it's a double-edged sword with the referrals, because a lot of times we're getting pushed into harder markets because we don't get to choose the market, right? So it's just like, but for those of you choosing it, don't feel discouraged if it's not happening in the first 3 months. Doesn't mean that if you need to do everything to try to create it. I don't want that to be an excuse of like, okay, Patrick said it hasn't happened in 3 months. That's cool. Just saying, like, you should have like GMB set up, your citations, pages, backlinks, all this stuff should be done in 3 months. But, you know, it may take 6 months. We had one in Raleigh where it took us a year to rank. Okay, so you lose a client after 3 months. It's not really a great experience for us. It's not a good experience for the client. And then what we decided to do is we're going to like, we'll charge them from the beginning, and we're going to take that money and we're going to put it on Google Ads. So that way we can, I think the go fast, look sexy or whatever it is method, like, well, then what happens is we end up losing money because we're spending almost all the money towards the ads to try to pay for, to try to keep this client happy. The lead quality is not as good as if it's coming through organic when it's coming through Google Ads. There's just like not as many people click on the ad section. So a lot of times the client would stay happy, but we would lose money. So we would keep the client, and then the thought process is we're going to make it up on the back end because like we're going to get the site to rank, and then like after 3 to 6 months, then we're going to have this client for years. So that was kind of my mentality. But when we started scaling really fast, now we're losing money on more clients at a time, which made like, that's not fun, right? So then version 3, which is what we're doing now, and I'm much happier with it, is I charge like a startup fee of maybe $2,000. And I'm like, you're not going to pay anything else until we have leads coming in. So we'll take that and then we'll build the sites and we'll communicate with the client. Like, hey, like we're going to build multiple sites. You need to have some skin in the game. We've got other people that are waiting for our services. If this doesn't sound good to you, that's fine, but this is how we do it here. So, you know, we build the site. It takes the pressure off of us. They know, like, they're not paying anything else monthly. We've shown them the sites we've built. We can show them the rankings improving over time. And then once they start to come in, I probably like, it's not like I'm going to say like the first lead comes in, or all right, you owe us money now. No, I'll wait until there's like a decent flow starting to come in. And then, you know, we'll start them off slower and I'll let them know like, hey, this is going to ramp up. And this is where we're starting at now because like we've worked really hard to get it here, but as it moves, we're going to move it up. Right. So, but you know, it's starting to produce, so it's worth something. Right. So that's kind of been version 3. So far, I think we started that, was that December, Jeff, I think?
Yeah, at the end of the year, and we've had a couple of clients go through that whole process, and it seems to be working out a lot better.
Yeah, seems much better. We're not losing money on these clients.
Yeah, not losing money on anything.
The startup fee covers a lot of our build costs and everything. And then, you know, managing Google Ads is a lot, right? It's a lot to handle. To show them. You got to watch, you to be effective with it, you need to be in there every day. And then it's an auction, so the prices are always changing. It's just it's a hard thing to be good at. So we still have some people on ads, but I'm looking to phase them off the ads, right? Like, I don't want to be spending money on ads. For those of you people that are spending money on ads, just a little tip. There is a Chase credit card that gives you a 3-point multiplier. So you should be running your ads through something like that. So, you know, we've been doing it for a year, and I think we have like 600,000 points now, which is worth a good amount of money. So it's almost like a discount on your Google ads. So I would highly recommend that if you're someone that is running a good amount of ads through your agency. I can find out the name of the card. Anyone, just shoot me a message if that's something you're interested in. But I personally don't like having that be a part of our agency, and it's
I didn't like it either.
yeah, it's just less client satisfaction. It's more to manage. And honestly, like I've said this several times, and I don't know if everyone believes it, and everyone's like so quick to try to let me get money coming in. You're not going to be profitable until you have ranking websites. That's what I've learned, is like, that's the most important thing, is like, when I say like build, like, it's because you want the ranking websites. That's where you start to take money away from this, right? You can run ads. You're not going to make money while you run ads, or your client's not going to be happy, or maybe you're like one of the best in the world at it. Those are to me, the three options, right? So, what I've learned is like, once the site is just really ranking well, that's when it's profitable. So how do I get there faster? And prospecting is great in finding these people, but it's also true when you have leads coming in, it's not hard. It's so much easier to sell the site, right?
So much easier. I mean, I have the luxury of Patric's hard work over the past few years, where he's built this portfolio, and I'm basically sitting here with, you know, referral clients falling in my lap, but also it's like all of a sudden a new site starts to pop, and it's like, hey, niche plus location, let's go find a client. And so you already have leads in the hand most of the time. So my job becomes a lot easier at that point, as you can imagine.
Yeah, like the little analogy that I give is, if you want to sell a Ferrari, and you're sitting on the corner and you're like, hey, I've got this car. This is what it looks like. It's really fast. It's awesome. You're going to love it. I can't show it to you. Or you have the Ferrari sitting there parked, and they get to look at it and try it, drive it around the block. So that's like, it makes the sales process easier, and it's way more profitable once that's the beauty of the business model, that part of the business model. All this other stuff is like to get to that spot, right? So you don't need a client to get to that spot, but you know, obviously you're going to want to choose the niches and that are going to allow you to have a good selection of clients. But I think the real value comes from just having that machine that just cranks out something that's worth money for you every month, right? So
we have a few things in the chat over here on
okay.
Facebook. First of all, shout out to Sarah Souza. She got a lead gen win on a landscaping trial client, closed his first job. And then AJ is saying that he was working with a tree guy last year that flaked on him, and now he's like sitting around waiting for business. So he called him back and started sold him on a pre-sold lead gen for him in a different market, which is amazing. And then Adam was asking about if we charge for extras. We don't. So we have a one fee for all in, and we provide whatever our clients need. Obviously, if they're starting to ask for more, we're going to charge them more, but we don't nickel and dime and say, oh, rep management's going to be this and that and the other, whatever. So we do one fee in that sense. And then the last question was Eric Gustafson is asking about reputation management and whether it's HIPAA compliant. I haven't even thought about that, Patric. I don't even know if it's an issue. Have you thought about it?
I haven't thought about it. I know there's a lot of reputation management softwares out there. I know a lot of people using different ones. I've never heard that topic brought up, but that doesn't mean that like I'm not an attorney on this. I don't know the ins and outs of that. For me personally, my gut says like not to worry about it, but everyone's got their own different thresholds for risk and that type of thing. So
yeah, I would think if it's a doctor's office or something and they're running stuff through a third-party system to get reviewed, I don't know, that sounds a little questionable to me, but the doctors will know, Eric. So yeah, I think it's up to them as far as their risk tolerance. I don't think that you would be the one at risk here. It would be the person with the license or the office or whatever. That'd be my sense.
cool. Yes. So congrats to you, to Sarah and
AJ.
AJ. Awesome work. And, you know, I don't know if you guys, Neil from Florida, who's been like a regular on these calls for a while, he's currently battling COVID. So he let me know he wasn't going to be here, but just kind of wishing him the best. It sounds like he's having a tough time with it. Seems like a really good guy. And, you know, any of you guys that are friends with him, maybe just like send him some positive vibes. So are we caught up?
One more thing I missed here is Eugene Song was asking, how do we find these guys who want to scale? It's, you know, it's hit or miss a lot of times, but you kind of, once you're doing, like for me anyway, I'm doing this on a daily basis. I kind of get a sensibility about like who I'm looking for, who I'm looking at when I'm prospecting. And I can kind of get a sense, and it's not like if I have a landscaping site, like, you know, I'm probably not looking at somebody who's, you know, really hyped on doing 7 figures, maybe. But, you know, that it's more for higher level niches. So you can kind of sort through people that way. It just kind of depends on, not all of our sites and opportunities are going to be in 7 figures. We have a site in a very small, like 60,000 population area in the backs, you know, the sticks somewhere. And I don't see a lot of opportunity for growth there. We're already stepping on one of the other major players in the niche, as far as like he's getting the same calls and he was our trial client. So, you know, there's different situations that are out there, but on a bigger population city and a higher level niche, like we're always looking for one of the top players. I mean, Patric's very competitive. He's like, we're going for the top player. Like, you know, I'm the one who's got to try to figure out who that guy is, so, or that girl or company is. So it's kind of a work in progress as far as like, do we get the top one? We want to go for the top one as much as we can.
Yeah, that's right. Like when you're the bruiser in the kickball game, you don't want to choose the weenie to work with, right? And you know,
Yep.
I'm not trying to tell you guys to be judgmental of these people, but you need to assess these people as you talk to them. Like, hey, how long have you been in business? Oh, I've been in business for 7 years. How many employees do you have? It's just me. To me, that's kind of a red flag. Okay. Like, you are the average of the decision. All of us, we're the average of the decisions that we've made. Right. And for those of us that are a part of this group or other groups to try to get to a better spot, it requires us to change. And that's why we're participating in this. And that's why we're doing this stuff. For these business owners that they haven't made that decision, that they're going to put in the effort to make that change, or they haven't done it to the point where they're effective. And that's going to be a red flag for me. I'll ask them what's their goal? How are you going to get there? What does that look like? If they haven't really thought through it, I don't think they're super serious about it. Just like you, oh, my apologies. So you can start to recognize that, like, you'll start to recognize patterns in the way people operate, right? And you guys probably already can do this. And when we want them to be who we want them to be, this rock star, then, you know, I saw this thing from Elon Musk today where, like, he thinks that wishful thinking is one of the biggest problems, because it will blind us from the truth a lot of times, where it's like, we want something to be a certain way, then like we hope it is, and we just like think it is, but we need to look for evidence, right? That's like, it's great to have like the power of positivity, but there has to be like a basis in realistic. So just because like you talk to a client who's a nice guy, like that might not be the best fit, right? We have to make these tough decisions. And if you decide to go with somebody who is just because they're a nice person and they don't really have the chops, it's going to create problems when you blow up their business. They're not going to be the right person unless they can change, right? And so it's always like a little bit of sacrifice. And I'm all for helping these people, but you know, maybe you can help this person get to that next step, but they've got to be, you know, they got to be willing to make those changes. They got to be like taking the actions on their side. You can't, like, these people that are only willing to work 40 hours and they have like a business that is not growing, like, it's probably not the most important thing to them to grow the business, right? Or they would be putting in more time. They'd be thinking about it when they're not like I can't remember the last time I worked 40 hours in a week. But like, I'm trying to grow something big here, so I'm willing to put in that extra time, right? So you're just kind of like.
Are you still sharing your screen? I'm not sure. I'm getting.
I am, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I don't know if they can see you or not.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. So Steven and Andrew's asking, when will we be able to text out leads from lead generated anytime.
Yep,
during the day.
coming very soon. It's coming really soon. So we're working through like the call sling texting stuff. So they've created some connections for us. So they're kind of making that possible, and we've got a lot of it working on our end, and it's I'm absolutely excited. I'm really excited to get it to that spot, and we're almost there. So I'm hoping in the next man, it just seems like every time I think it's going to happen, then other stuff happens. But hoping in the next few weeks we're going to be able to get that live, because we've already got it working in our development stuff. When we get our mobile applications ready to release, then that's something that's going to be able to be done through the mobile application, almost like Facebook Messenger, where you can send a message, but on the other end, it can come out as a text, right? So this is going to give us a ton of flexibility where like a text message comes in and we can have it be sent to a client who has the mobile application installed as a message and get a push notification, and then they can reply, and then it can be routed from the tracking number back to the person who texted, right? So I just think it's going to be really, really powerful when we get that in place. So version 1 is not going to include that part of it, but it is going to have texting with reputation management texting, this type of stuff. So
Lisa's asking if she can ask a couple questions. Lisa, are you wanting?
Yeah, go for it.
Hey, how's it
Hey,
going,
how are ya?
guys?
Nice to see you.
Yeah, it's nice seeing you. Just a quick thing. First, wanted to start off with and just thank you so much, guys, for doing this like every week. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure everyone in this group really appreciates this. I've gained so much value from this. So yeah, I have a couple questions. First question is, I am struggling to find a good way to prospect with like leads in advance during my day job. It's not like I can just make phone calls as much as I want to. Like I cannot do that. So what I've been doing has just been like texting, and I haven't really found a good way when it comes to just like text messaging, especially like in the construction industry, of how I can like, go ahead.
You on Facebook when you're at work? Can you get on Facebook?
I can get on Facebook too. So I just been like texting on my phone, like I do like a lot of my prospecting, like I'll pull like, people off of like Google ads, for example, or off of like Facebook groups. And then I just like text them.
Yeah, I do quite a bit of Facebook prospecting actually, and it works really easy because I have a lot of stuff to sell. So I and I like change, so I don't get stuck on one site. Like I want to cycle through and like offer it to different people and then go to the next one and then circle back the next day and whatever. So I would go into Facebook groups and I would just say, hey, or even if I find somebody on Craigslist, if I'm going to text them or some other number that I want to text, I'm just like, hey, are you guys open to some referral work in XYZ location? And usually most of the time they're like, yeah. So I just keep it super simple, super short. I'm like, yeah, I get some stuff once in a while. I could send you a couple and see if it's a good fit. What do you think? And I've already checked them out, obviously, online. Like I know who they are. So it's not, Jimmy in a pickup usually, depending on the niche. But, I try to do it that way. And, if I do that in a higher level niche, a lot of times they won't respond. So because they don't have time, they're on the run, right? So I'll do that to 3 to 5 of them at, in one, at one time. And then I'll just throw it out there. I'm throwing lines in the water, right? So then I go to the next one, and then it's kind of eventually somebody starts to respond. They're like, yeah, I could take on some more work. Like, what do you got? And I'm like, well, I just have this little, marketing thing set up, and I get some leads once in a while. I can't make any promises, but, I don't know if it's the type of work you do. If I can get them into a bigger conversation, it kind of depends on how desperate I am to sell it, meaning how many leads are coming in. If I have 3 leads a week, then I'm not as desperate to sell it. I'm trying to just kind of, get somebody to trust me enough to work with me, because I'm probably going to need to ask them for money, because it's kind of hard to monetize something with that low number of leads. If it's getting 30 leads a week, well, that's different, right? So I want to try to get those people on the phone. So I would be like, well, hey, I'm getting a bunch of work here. Like this could blow up your business. Like, let's get on a phone call. So that's kind of the way I do it.
Hey, Lisa, first, thank you for the appreciation. I'm glad that it's been useful for you. Second, and don't feel any pressure at all to answer this, but do you want to share the niche that you're talking about? Is this something that's like obscure, or is it something that's kind of mainstream?
It's more mainstream, but honestly, it's like several niches that have like leads coming in. The problem is with these different niches is, one is like event planning, right? I've had this up for like a year now, and finally with COVID starting to like end, I'm starting to get like more leads coming in for event planning. Well, with event planning, that seems a little bit different when it comes to texting versus like the construction. Because what I noticed with the construction industry is that they don't really ask you for many details. It would just be like, okay, I'll give that person a call. With like anything outside the construction industry, like event planning, it seems like they keep harassing me for more details, because it's like I want to keep it simple, but then they're like asking me for, okay, like who are you, like what do you do, and like all these things, and it's just like, call this referral. That's all you need to do. And then I get asked like 18 questions, and then it's like I feel like I'm scaring them off when I have to answer the truth.
Right. So here's the strategies that I would take for these different ones. For event planning and for the construction, I would be joining some big Facebook groups, and I would be posting in there like, can anyone recommend somebody like that can handle this type of event in Austin, Texas, or wherever the city is, right? I would post that in there, and you're going to get a lot of different responses. Okay. And then send them the lead. When they respond, like, hey, I could be interested, like, yeah, here's you may want to have a conversation, or you might just like throw it in there. Like, I've got a lot of these coming in. Just like, you just pretend like the conversation has already happened where they've agreed. Like, hey, would you be interested in a wedding that is that the type of events that it would be, like a wedding or like bar mitzvah or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, hey, would you be interested in that? When they say yes, just be like, throw the information in there. That's one way to do it. You're not really vetting them out very much, which like, you may want to look at them a little bit and make sure they're not like an axe murderer or something. But like, you could just like throw it in there, and if they close it or they get a good conversation, and then you give them another one, like, it's not going to take them long before they're going to be wanting more of these, right? If they're getting value from them. You're in a niche that, like, I like to call is a waterfall niche, and I love those. So the leads that come in for this can be so much more than the initial lead if you structure this correctly. Okay.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you could be lining up like table and chair rental. You could be lining up DJs and cakes and caterers and like, I don't know, clowns, like all kinds of different things that are associated with these events. You need to be turning this niche into like 5 or 7 leads for each lead that comes in. Okay. So I understand step one is like getting the event planner person, because that's what the actual lead is for. But, and that may be something you need to like step around a little bit, where maybe the event planner has already gone and like, they have their own lead gens and now they're like getting like money back for each time somebody rents chairs from this place or something.
I was going to say that they probably are a lead gen effectively, because I'm sure they have a Rolodex of people that they use, and maybe they get kicked back something or whatever.
Yeah. So the construction one, I would also be like, I had tremendous success by just like doing a simple post like, hey, can anybody recommend a wedding planner in like Philadelphia? And like, if the group is big enough, and especially if it's like a tight knit, like if it's an industry where people are going to like trade shows and that type of thing, and they know people in these different areas, then a lot of times you'll get people making recommendations about these people. And
I find a lot of times you don't even have to make the post. Like, you just go in and search the niche keyword, and somebody's already made a post like that sometime in the past, and they're just lined up right there for you.
Right. Are your lead gens in the time zone that you are in?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So most of the time, business owners are going to be pretty busy between 9 and 5, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of my conversations with clients happen after their business hours. So like, most of these people, it's not the worst thing to message them when you get off work, or even on the weekend, right? If they don't, if they don't answer, then as long as you're not calling them at like 3 in the morning, like you call them at like noon on a Saturday, it's not, I don't think that's like too intrusive personally. So, you know, I would be using those. I would be using like probably until like 7 o'clock, 7:30, being able to reach out to them. I'd be combining it with like Facebook post. And then, you know, you could make the post in the morning, and then maybe on your lunch break, you could go and see what it's got. Or like Jeff said, just like message these people within Facebook chat. And I think that it has a really high open rate when you message someone on Facebook versus like sending out a bulk email or something like that. I know that Mike has some like crazy ninja email stuff, but I've had tremendous success just like using Facebook, and Jeff has as well. And I know a number of other people have too. Is there anybody else that has stuff to add to that for Lisa to help her?
Adam's asking about waterfall leads. Is passing the leads on to multiple industries okay if the lead is only given their details for the initial niche?
Yeah. So what you can do, first of all, I don't think it's, you know, that's maybe a gray area, right? I don't think it's like a terrible thing to do, but what you can also do is you could just have a checkbox on your form, or, you know, if you're handling the calls for them, like, hey, you know, we work with a lot of, you seem like a nice person. We work with a lot of people that we would recommend. Would you be interested in hearing from these people if it's on a phone call? Or you could just have them like check a checkbox on a form. And, you know, you'll know, like when you're in this, like, for instance, Lisa here, maybe if they choose wedding, then you could have like the checkbox, or like they check a checkbox, you could have something else pop up that says like, okay, are you interested in any of this other stuff? You could potentially get a discount if you, you know, if you like use a few of our different vendors or something. Like there's ways to do it, right? And the lead value is probably not going to be like if you were to get like a DJ lead and it was worth $20, and you do it this way where they came in for a wedding, maybe that DJ lead's only worth $17 or $15 because it's like, I don't know, they weren't asking for it. So, but that is absolutely multiply that times 5. I mean, that like, I think it's, I had this idea a while ago to just like focus on these like waterfall industries, because I'm just like, I'll 5X every lead that comes in if I choose the right industries. Like you can't do that for some niche, like roofing, for instance. Because when a roofing lead comes in, like, I don't know what else you can sell them. Maybe there's like water damage or something like this, but like for this one, it's just like, we know by the type of lead that they need all this other stuff, right? So I really like that idea. At least I don't think, like, I wouldn't personally go into the event management space unless I was doing that, because I think that the price per lead is just not worth as much as some of these other ones. And I think it's going to be more competitive than other ones. But if you're going to be able to waterfall it, then that compensates for those other deficiencies in my mind. Was this helpful, Lisa?
Yeah, no, this was definitely helpful. I guess my other thing, you know, is it seems like that Facebook prospecting and just messaging them on Facebook is more personal maybe than just like texting these different phone numbers, and they just don't have like a face to a name.
It's a pattern interrupt. It's not where they're used to getting hit up by marketers, right? Okay. Like they're used to like people calling them and they hang up on them, or getting junk mail. But when you get like a Facebook message, especially if you keep it casual, then it doesn't seem spammy, right? So
yeah, I keep it real casual and short. You know, it's like I'm busy. I have something of value here. If you're interested, let me know. You know,
I use it a lot, and it works really, really well.
Awesome.
I've never had any objections or complaints.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Jeff, are we caught up on questions?
We are all caught up.
Okay, cool. So a few things I kind of wrote down some things on my whiteboard here. Okay, so for those of you guys that are having posts get rejected, we're getting more and more information from Google on their rules for posts. Most of the time, what's happening is lead generated is not what's failing on the post. Is what's happening is we're putting the post out there, Google accepts it, and then Google evaluates it and pulls it down. So I just want to make sure that's what happens. Like, I don't know when the last time I found a situation that was different than that. Like it may have been 4 months since like a post didn't post on our end. So it seemed like Google's rejecting it. Some of the things that they're rejecting it for is having the phone number in the post, a URL in the post, and a call to action in the post, like give us a call today. So these are things that we're learning that they don't like about these posts when we try to post them. So I wanted to just kind of put that out there and make that clear. We learned something in our agency this week. That we had a listing that was suspended, and we were trying to get it through, and we were talking to Google. We're kind of like doing our harass Google strategy. And they told us that we needed to adjust our service area because our service area included things that were more than 2 hours away. So I'd never heard that before. I didn't know that was a thing. As they said, adjust that to be less than 2 hours. So we adjusted it and then it went live. So when you guys are setting this up and you're like getting that maybe something you want to consider is to keep it less than 2 hours, which is like, what does that mean? That's such a subject. At what time? Like 2 hours, like if you're in New York City, then maybe it takes like 2 hours to go 4 miles at certain, I don't know, but take that for what it's worth. They said 2 hours. So that's some kind of internal like gauge that they're using on some level, right? So after all these conversations that we've had about suspensions, I'd never heard that. And that appears to be something that they're looking at. Another thing is it appears that Google is starting to almost phase out the site command. So like we were looking at, we thought we were having a lot of issues with index pages because they weren't showing up when we use the site command. So just to be clear on what I'm talking about, I will share my screen and let me choose the right one here. Okay. All right. So let's say, I'm gonna find, hopefully there's a Bob's Roofing Company out there. I think there is. All right. So this is Bob's Roofing Company here, right? So typically what we used to do is we would go through here and we would put site right here and we would get a list of the index pages. So you can see that there's 52 results here. But if you would go through and you click, it says 52, but it's almost always wrong. When I go here and I go on 3, it's actually 25 results. Okay, so apparently from what we're understanding within our agency, Google is phasing this out because this is inconsistent. So the way that we found it to be more successful is using the Search Console, right? So if you guys haven't set up Search Console on your site, then it will give you a list of your pages. It can tell you if there's like errors and problems. We're actually, as a part of updates that we're going to be starting soon, we're going to be integrating the Google Search Console and Google Analytics directly into Lead Generated. So we'll have that information in there for you. But just like a heads up, something that we've been struggling with is getting pages indexed, and we weren't actually having indexing issues is what it felt like, what it seems like now. But what the site command is just not seem to be working. And then we've read articles about how Google plans to phase this out because they've had issues with inconsistency, or they don't like it, or maybe they just want to push people towards Search Console for whatever reason. So couple just like tidbits I wanted to share with you guys. I've got an update on, we are working through our campaign builder stuff. So it's not ready yet. Obviously it's going to be probably a month or more before we have this thing in there, but I just think this is the most exciting thing we're working on right now. So I wanted to share this with you. This is kind of our prototype of what it's looking like right now. So if you were to click on here, you got a few different triggers. So a trigger could be like a form submission, a phone call, a text message, lead status. So that would be like, we've got all our forms, right? And they have the different lead fields, but if you could set one of those fields and then assign it a value where it says like, okay, if the lead has this status, okay, choose your status. So that would be, I don't think we have this part of it set up, but you would choose the field and then you would choose the status. And then based on that, you can assign all these different actions, right? Like a workflow that could follow. So we've got a review received, right? A pipeline stage, a task. So tasks are something that we have working in our development server that we haven't pushed out for you guys, which is the same as contacts and campaigns. So with these, we're building this and we're going to be pushing this out soon. Task is kind of like the ability to like, hey, I need to like do this for this company, and then I'm going to set a reminder to do it. And So that's a piece we're going to be introducing. So a lot of these are kind of related. So we're going to be rolling them all out together. So those are the triggers. And then the triggers can trigger an action. So an action could be like, hey, wait 15 minutes. Like, so I was on a call earlier today with Brendan, and he was showing me a really cool piece of software where you could have like if a bad review or feedback comes in, you could automatically have it send a message to that person kind of apologizing, and you wouldn't want that to happen instantly, so you'd put like a wait time in there, right? Where so you kind of build these workflows like this, right? And you could send an email. So this could be whatever email you want. So each one of these, once you click on it, is going to have like options under it. So I could be like, send an email to the client, or I could send an email to myself, or I could send an email to the person who filled out the form, or whatever it is. Like, that's a part of the contact, right? So sending text messages, moving things to different campaigns, moving things to different stages, assigning it to a user. So this assignment to a user will fulfill the like if you combine, if you start thinking about this a little bit deeper, and you say like, okay, so we have the ability to look at lead statuses, and we have the ability to assign it to a user. So you could essentially set up conditional logic where it says, if the lead status is one of these zip codes, then assign to this user. If the lead status is this, then assign to this user. You could, and what we're going to be adding in here is like weighted averages and round robins as well. So this is going to change a lot of things in lead generated. It's a huge piece. And I just want to keep you guys kind of updated on where we're going with this, because this is probably going to change the auto forwarding. We're probably going to phase that out and use a system like this. And we'll give you guys kind of starter campaigns where, like, templates, I guess is a better word. Like, hey, this is like send email to client, send text to client, send both. Like, we'll give you a series of templates, and then you can assign these to companies. And as another part of this is like, you'll be able to kind of snapshot a company. Once you start building this stuff, it's going to rely on putting in some effort to kind of get things set up. So our thought process is, if you can kind of snapshot this and then copy it over as you set up a new company, like, hey, now you've got all these different steps set up automatically, right? So this is where we're going.
Seems like that would be super cool for the waterfall strategy too. If you send an email, perhaps, when you get a lead into one of those types of properties that kind of, ask you to check boxes for additional services or something like that. There's probably a bunch of different ways to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this automation I think it's going to be carrying the work of a few different VAs at once. That's what I think. I think it's going to, and it's not going to make mistakes, right? It can't, right? If you guys put in the right rules, then it's always going to be working. So really excited to get this in here. We are, I think we're about an hour and 10 minutes now. So if there's anybody else that has any questions or anything else before we hop off, then I'm happy to answer it. Otherwise, I'm going to call it a night. Okay. I'm not hearing anything. Jeff, I see Henry's got what is the harass Google strategy? So yeah,
I kind of answered with the request for reinstatement and play the buffoon, and just keep hammering on them until they cave in. It's not 100%, but oftentimes it works. They might ask for some additional information. Yeah.
So just keep, like, if you get a suspension or you got one that's stuck in pending, then GMBs, then just contact them every day and be like, hey, this is costing our business a lot of money. What can we do? Like, how can we get this resolved? Is there anything you can do to help me? What do we need? Like, why is this happening? I see other companies that are in our industry that are on here, but we're not, and I don't know why. Are they better than us? Like, just asking stupid questions like this that are like, you just have to get lucky once and get it to go through, right? So that's what we call the harass Google strategy within our agency. Okay, cool. I think we're all caught up on questions. I don't see the chat. So, yep. Okay, cool. And if you guys are struggling with things and you want to Okay, cool, Henry. Good to hear. Hopefully that works out for you, man. So if you guys are struggling with things and you want me to go over it on the calls, then let's throw it in the group. And I'm doing my best to try to understand where like how we can apply the most value. And sometimes I feel like I'm guessing. So if there's some strategies that you guys are struggling with, things that you're stuck with, things that you'd like to see in lead generated that aren't here, we're going to be setting up a voting system pretty soon here where we can kind of vote on these features. Brendan, I called Brendan earlier today. He gave me some really good recommendations, and I want you guys to know that you guys fill these tickets out, and I pay attention to every single one of these feature requests. I've got a list. A lot of the things that have come in this system have come from you guys, so we appreciate it, and anything that you guys can do can help make this better for all of us. So.
Yeah, I think we're starting to think about it in terms of like, what can you outsource to this system? In other words, like if you have a challenge in scaling an agency, like not just how to do it, but who can do it, and then can you make that an automation or some kind of AI or something? So
right.
We're thinking in those terms, like how many people can this system replace?
Cool. All right. One more thing before we go. Normally I get to hear Lawrence's awesome French accent, and I haven't got to hear it. So maybe you could just say hello or tell us how you're doing.
How are you doing, guys?
There it is. That's the stuff. Awesome. Doing well. Okay, guys. Well, have a great week, and let me know if there's anything I can do for you guys, and we'll see you in the group. Okay.
Good evening.
All right.
Good evening.